Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 15th, 2024 meeting of the Johnson County Community College Board of Trustees. Won't you please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty then. For purposes of roll call, we have present in person Trustee Mitchell, Trustee Cross, Trustee Rattan, Vice Chair Smith-Everett, and I believe joining us by phone is Trustee Jennings. So we do have a quorum. And we'll just move right on through the agenda, starting with awards and recognitions. And Dr. Korb, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you. We do have a student spotlight, so that's one thing that we kind of miss over the summer when we don't have those, but we're back in getting really close to being in session. So our student spotlight this evening are two students, actually. We have Carson Schmidt and Brody McCoubery, and so we're happy to have them. I had a chance to meet them, and now they'll get to talk to you just a little bit about their story. So if you would come to the podium and just kind of tell us a little bit about your story here.
Yeah, hello. As Dr. Korb said, my name is Carson Schmidt. Me and Brody both play in the men's soccer team here, and we're just here to talk about why we chose JCC. I've always played soccer from a young age, and when I got my senior year, Coach Cole started recruiting me and took a visit pretty quickly, and it was pretty obvious on my visit, this campus is second to none facilities, not just on the athletic side, but academic as well. We spend a lot of time in the Academic Achievement Center, Study Hall, and just the resources that they provide in there, and also the athletic facilities. I mean, I don't think any JUCO in the country probably has what we have, so that's a big reason why I came here. Thank you.
My name is Brody McCoubery, and as he said, the facilities here are second to none and just some of the best I've seen. And a big reason that was good for me to come here was the small class sizes. I really like that there's about 25 people in a class max, because I don't like how in the bigger schools there's always those giant study halls. I don't think I could learn very well in there, so that was a big positive for me here.
My name is Jeff Cole. I'm the head men's soccer coach here at Johnson County. I'm starting my 5th year here. Really proud of both these student athletes. Carson is from up north in Liberty, went to Liberty North, 3.5 GPA. And Brody is a local kid from DeSoto High School. And both of them have been named as one of the captains of our team this year. Brody actually has a 4.0, was named on the NJCA academic honors this past year. But I'm just extremely proud of both these and our team in general. When I took over the program 5 years ago, there was a lot of issues, we'll say, and so the perception of the team was poor, and so I think that has totally flipped and everything, and we put a lot of standards within the program, first and foremost from an academic standpoint, and then from an athletic standpoint. Last couple years we've had, last year we had a guy that was a student that was second team academic All-American. And the year before that, we had a gentleman that was first team academic All-American, was named National Scholar Player of the Year. So, with the academic standards, and then on the field, we've been conference champs back-to-back years and won 25 games the last 2 years. So, extremely proud of where the program is at, the perception of it, and we just look to continue the success.
I'm proud of them too. They did not tell me about their GPA and their academic achievements when they were in my office. So,
Well, that's awesome. Thanks, guys. Before I turn it over for questions from the board, I too really miss the student spotlight, and I love it when you guys come in front of the board and the community and tell us a little bit about yourselves. I particularly enjoy hearing from student athletes. We all just finished watching the Olympics, and we all get so excited about athletics and how they can change lives, and clearly that's playing a role in your lives as well. So thank you very much. And with that, questions. Trustee Cross.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate your Olympic reference. And we're so very proud of you, all of you. And I'm proud of how the women represented us in Olympic play here, improving their standing and status in these games. Honest to God, do any of you have any suggestions what the men could do better?
On the Olympic side or with the?
Anywhere.
Well, the senior team is getting ready to hire a new coach, so, that's going to help out a lot.
Here, here.
Yeah, so. But
It's just
no,
that simple.
They've got a lot of talent. I just think the leadership needs to change a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Trustee
Thank you,
Rattan.
What's your position on the team? What position do you play, and what are your majors?
I play center back, defense. My major is liberal arts.
I'm a goalkeeper, and I am a science major.
Thank you.
Science? Yep.
Trustee Smith Everett.
Well, Trustee Rattan stole part of my question, so 2 points for you, Trustee Rattan, but I was gonna ask about your majors and what your local, what are your goals after associate's degree? Do you wanna play 2 years? Do you wanna play more? Can you play more? I don't know how that works, and then I have some comments for Coach.
I am probably done after these 2 years. I plan to go to KU and study mechanical engineering.
Nice.
I would like to continue playing after this. I'm not sure where yet, but I think that's part of the journey. And then my intended major after this is going to be biochemistry.
Nice. I'm married to a chemist, and you all are a special breed, so all of the good vibes to you. I know it's hard speaking with humans. That's one of the things about chemists. Talking to other humans is really difficult, so congratulations, you made it here. Coach, I just wanted to compliment you on an incredible program. We learned about you. Was it last year or the year before? I don't recall how long ago it was.
Last year, the last time I spoke?
Yeah, to our board.
2 years ago.
Okay, gosh, time has just flown. But kudos to turning the program around. I think when you came on, the record was 0 and some.
It was difficult.
Yeah, and
Right in the middle of COVID as well, so.
and maybe most importantly, that you have really high academic standards for your athletes, which I think really builds. We know that 2-year college students are 7 times more likely to graduate with a bachelor's if they come to community college first. And the things you have put into place are really building that. And I want to really thank you and congratulate you on building a team and having such great team athletic scholars. And I had a question for you that now I can't remember. So at some point, I'll see you in the hallway and I'll ask you at that time. But
I appreciate that. I know here at Johnson County, we have a lot of standards and, high standards, and we, have that within our program as well. And we have study hall 3 times a week, mandatory grade checks every Friday. You have to have at least a 65% or higher just to train or play. Because, it's, it's life, and you've got to make sure that you're having good grades and moving on, get your associate's degree, then move on, get your bachelor's, and maybe in your master's after that. So these are the standards that that the school has, that we have within our program, and I think it's really, really important.
it's very admirable, and thank you for leading with that.
Coach, thanks for all that you do, and Carson and Brody, I'm sure, is it Brady? Brody. I'm sure that you've heard this from Coach as well, but athletics builds character and discipline. And those 2 things will help you succeed in your academic endeavors as well. I see you smiling, right?
Well, character is one of our words on our wall. I mean, that's what we're looking for when I go recruiting is high character individuals. And then discipline is one of our core value words.
Yeah, character and discipline will help you succeed at whatever you do in life, and it will contribute to your academic endeavors as well. I'm really excited to hear that you have some pretty challenging majors in mind, and so good luck with that. I'd like to hear from each of you, what's your goal for your soccer career here at JCCC? What would you like to achieve more than anything else?
Win a national championship.
Well, okay, all right. You got to dream big, right? How about you?
I mean, kind of in the same boat as him, I'd like to win a national championship.
Well, that'd be awesome. We'd love to have you bring that home for us. So thanks so much for spending some time with us. We always love hearing from our students. So, and thanks, Coach, for everything you do.
Thank you.
You don't have to stay the whole time.
We do, you don't.
Exactly. I told them that this was always our favorite part of the board meeting.
It really is.
It is, I know.
It really is.
So.
And Trustee Cross, I'll just say this, I think you were talking about the soccer team in the Olympics, the men's soccer team, but my comment on what the men can do better is baton.
4x1.
Yeah.
I meant soccer, you know.
Okay. Now is the time in our agenda for the open forum. The open forum section of the board agenda is a time for members of the community to provide comments to the board. There will be one open forum period during each regularly scheduled board meeting. Comments are limited to 5 minutes unless a significant number of people plan to speak, in which case the chair may limit a person's comments to less than 5 minutes. In order to be recognized, individuals must register at the door 15 minutes prior to each regularly scheduled board meeting. When addressing the board, registered speakers are asked to remain at the podium, should be respectful and civil, and are encouraged to address individual personnel or student matters directly with the appropriate college department. As a practice, the college does not respond in this setting when the matter concerns personnel or student issues or matters that are being addressed through our established grievance or suggestion processes or otherwise the subject of review by the college or the board. It's my understanding we do not have any registered speakers tonight.
Correct.
So I just love reading all that just to conclude with that. So we'll move along to our board reports, and I see my good friend Dick Carter in the audience, so we'll hear from you first.
Well, good evening. Thank you. It's been a little bit of a quiet month, even though we had a primary election just a little over a week ago, a couple weeks maybe, and we're still waiting on a couple of race results that were so close. One was just announced as I was walking up here in an email that I saw. It's not one that's in Johnson County that I've seen yet, but we do have one that I'll mention a little bit later in my report. The first month of the new fiscal year for fiscal year 25 just completed, the month of July, and receipts were fairly flat. I think that was expected by folks looking at the budget. That's not so much the concern, simply because there are a number of new tax policies that went into effect this year, especially because of the special session. But as legislators continue to look at the budgeting process, one of the things that we're hearing, and in fact there's going to be a special committee appointed this summer, is that the legislature themselves might start developing their own budget. State constitution, state law requires that the governor present budget recommendations on a certain date in January, and that has historically occurred since statehood. It does not mean that the legislature has to introduce that budget. That budget is always introduced by the governor's office, but we've now begun to see different versions of budgets introduced. And I think that this conversation that's going to occur over the course of the summer is going to be an interesting one, where the legislature proposes maybe taking more control over what that budget development looks like. The committees meet over the course of the summer. The Legislative Budget Committee will meet over the course of the summer and fall months, and they listen to reports from various state agencies. They start to develop their own recommendations based on what they hear from that process. But really what they do is react to the budget that's presented to them in January. So that really, this conversation could change the dynamic of what budget development looks like throughout the course of state budgeting. And that's something that we'll be watching very closely. And so I tag that on to the part about where we were with receipts for the state at the end of the first month of the fiscal year, not so much as a result of what the budget receipts were, but just where we're going and the conversation that's going to happen over the course of the next several months. I don't know that I see anything happening in the next legislative session, but I'm certainly not going to put it out of order. We'll see what happens. Legislative interim committee memberships were announced recently by all members of legislative leadership. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but what I did do was highlight the Johnson County legislators who are members of those interim committees. They are in bold on the comments in the report, and sometimes folks like to kind of see who's been assigned or who has asked for what committee. The Board of Regents met for their annual retreat at the end of July. That's where they received the budget requests from all of the higher ed institutions and partners. They did not make any decisions at that retreat. They asked some questions. I do believe that they'll make their recommendations and their decisions at the September Board of Regents meeting. They don't meet in August when they have their retreat at the end of July as it crosses over into August. But one of the things that we're picking up is, and that's interesting, is that staff will be requesting more detailed information as it relates to program expenditures across the board for all institutions related to workforce development and apprenticeships. That's kind of the new buzzword in higher ed, is apprenticeships. And that's where we've seen some relative success as far as new dollars are concerned over the past couple of budget cycles. That's something that we'll be dealing with, that Rachel's department will be dealing with. I think even Mickey has probably received some inquiries about where some of those dollars are being spent programmatically, and that'll be something that we look at and could determine what, not just for this institution, but those responses across the system could determine what those dollars look like in future budget allocations. So that is something that we'll be watching very closely as well. Finally, just in the way of the primary race results, we just completed the August primary. There was one particular district in Johnson County that saw a very close primary that I don't believe has been decided yet. I haven't read the full article. As you were calling my name is when I was scanning the article. But that's District 48. That's where Dan Osman is the Democrat incumbent in Overland Park. And there was a two-way Republican primary between Randy Ross and Debbie Paulback that was very close. And I don't believe that race has been decided as of yet, but will be soon. I mean, we're kind of right in that phase where earlier this week we had another race across the state where someone essentially conceded the race. They knew that the votes weren't going to be there. It was close. And the one that was just decided was a race in Manhattan that was also very close. Just recently determined the winner of that particular race. So we're facing now the November 5th general election. That's what folks will be doing, campaigning over the next several months. The signs are gone for the most part, but you're going to start seeing them pop up again in the month of October, maybe late September. And we continue to field the inquiries of folks that are running for office for people that do what I do. And so it'll be an interesting turnout come November. I think some people are projecting change in a number of offices. I don't know that we'll see a sea change. I think the big question is, does the House lose its supermajority? The Senate has had a supermajority of Republicans since 1993 and the House since 2011. So I think those will be the things that folks that kind of geek out on politics like me watch and see what happens as November rolls around. So that kind of captures us up as to what's going on in politics across the state, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if I'm able.
Thanks so much, Dick. Yeah, I always enjoy hearing your report, and things are kind of quiet right now, but obviously there are things that you're keeping your eyes on, and we so appreciate that. Any questions for Dick Carter? Trustee Cross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dick, sedation dentistry, what exactly is that?
Rachel asked me the same question. I don't know the genesis of the subject matter as to why that's receiving its own interim committee. You know, lots of times what we deal with or what we hear about are the different levels, the mid-level, whether it's the hygienist or the dental assistant versus the actual doctor, and what can be done above and below the gum line. I'm not exactly sure, and I'm going to need to take a look a little bit more in detail. I know I included a description in last month's report, and I could probably flip back the pages.
I can go back. Thank you.
Find that. Well, it was just the question that was asked, and that's what gets the approval of the interim committee. That doesn't mean that's what they're going to talk about in the interim committee, because it's anybody's game.
Busy week to tell people not to make fun of Donald Trump for having dentures, and that dentistry is important. And so I know that having a lot of family in rural Kansas, that dentistry is an issue, right? If we don't have doctors and lawyers, we also don't probably have dentists in those counties. So it's an issue in the outstate, right?
Yeah, I think all of those positions that you mentioned are something that rural Kansas is well aware of and trying to figure out how to fill those vacancies and those holes.
Thank you, thank you.
Trustee Smith Everett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dick, my question was, I lost track of which body was inquiring about our workforce development and programs. Was that the Regents, KSDE, or the legislature?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit all over the board.
Oh, okay.
There are a number of entities that fancy themselves as overseeing what that workforce development or those apprenticeships look like. Again, those are new programs. The legislation and the way the budgeting was handled in a very open manner. And when I say that, I mean there's not a lot of guardrails on how those dollars can be spent. And so I think that's what they're trying to pull back in. I know that the Regent staff has asked for some of those numbers. Even internally, our own association is trying to kind of get a handle on how those dollars are being spent. And then Department of Commerce
okay.
also oversees some of that, and they're asking some of those same questions.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Carter before we give him his leave? Safe travels back to Topeka. Thank you as always.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is our report from the College Council and Jason Arnett.
Good evening. Sorry I wasn't here last month, but I understand Kim did a great job filling in for me, so really pleased she did that. College Council met yesterday. We got updates from counseling, which of course is in peak time at this moment, getting students ready for the semester. It's very exciting. They have some new frontline staff and are working with success coaches who are doing onboarding and ensuring all the new students have their correct major lined up, which means the counselors are spending more time with the students actually counseling them. And that's also aided by the fact that the new admissions navigator is now seeing those prospective students, which means that it frees up a whole bunch of time for counselors to actually counsel students. So STAR was very excited about that. Staff Council reported some high fives to the staff at the bookstore who were completing summer buyback at the end of July as they were gearing up for fall, which is always a busy time for them. And then another high five went to the CAV Connection events and workshops that prepare students for a successful semester. So we had a lot of student-centered stuff right off the bat. Staff Council also elected Caitlin Krumsick from Academic Affairs and re-elected Angela Boyer from Information Services and me, for some reason, to College Council. So we were all three there yesterday, which is great. There was a robust discussion about communication and an approach for documenting how issues pass through each council. I shared the updated InfoHub site on shared governance, which is really exciting. Because now when anybody at the college accesses InfoHub and types in just the word council or committee, the summarized definition of shared governance now appears with links to the councils or committees immediately below it. So I want to give a shout out to Anina Dahlstrom and her team in marketing that worked on this project. They were very excited to take it on and make it look as good as it does. And it's now much easier for the campus community to find out what's going on in the councils, committees, and task forces that make up shared governance. So it's a big deal for us. The council also began to consider our agenda for the coming year, and will continue to make the processes and work of everyone involved in shared governance more accessible and transparent. One project will likely be to illustrate the processes that items for consideration go through to the councils. Another will explore encouraging participation in shared governance from keeping up with minutes to standing for position on one of the councils, which is what we hope people will do. And then finally, College Council, probably against their better judgment, re-elected me as co-chair. So that's all I have for you this month. So,
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Arnett? Trustee Smith Everett.
Sorry. Thank you, Jason. I think all of your nominations to all of the committees speaks about how much we appreciate you and we think your input is really valuable.
Thank you.
So kudos to you, because I think you're getting a lot of recognition for that, which just means more work, right? That doesn't really work out that well, but here we are. My question is actually not to you, but probably to Dr. McLeod and your team. Will we get a presentation? Maybe we did. I have missed the last 2 committee days on the changes with the counselor, the success coach, and the changes with the counseling advising team that's happening.
Actually, Dr. Corbin and I talked today about the future of some of the presentations in student success and a design to kind of bring everybody up to speed on where we are with some of the things that we've operationalized, not just recently, but actually over the last 3 years that have kind of helped us tick along with some of the goals. So yeah, you'll be hearing some things here in the next couple of months.
Okay, great. I'll look for those because those are, I know myself and several other trustees, those have been hot button topics, both out in the community but also internally, and I want to be able to speak correctly about what is and is not happening, as well as just the good news of all the things coming together, which I know you guys have been working on for several years. So I'm glad to know we'll get kind of a summary of how is that all convening. I'm really glad to hear all the great things coming out of counseling, so I appreciate that part of your presentation. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, and please don't ever apologize for having questions, because I count on you to ask all the questions, because then I don't have as much to say, so. Thank you, Jason, for all that you do, and your humility is noted, but we do value you in every capacity in which you serve, and
Thank you.
You know what they say, you know what you get for winning the pie eating contest? Yeah, more pie.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I was just tickled to hear you talk about, and to read in your report, 3 things. How do I know what's going on in the committees? How does stuff happen in the committees? And how do we get people to participate more in shared governance? If we as an institution can conquer those 3 things, we will have achieved greatness. So I'm glad to know that those are all top of mind, because I think that those are probably the most critical pieces of shared governance within the college. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We are definitely on the same page there, so
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your report. Any other questions? All right.
Thanks very much.
Next on the agenda is the Faculty Association and Andrea View.
Okay, I think I'm close enough. Hello, my name is Andrea View, and I am the president of the JCCC Faculty Association. I wanted to kind of start tonight's remarks with a couple of good news items, both of which once again highlight the wonderful collaborations happening between faculty and the grants office. First, JCCC recently received a $159,000 grant from the Department of Education for the Fulbright Hayes Group Project Award Program. The project, which is spearheaded by Dr. Gladys Mwangi, Assistant Professor of Psychology, and Bill McFarland, who is a Professor of Anthropology, is titled Development of African Studies Curricula, Focus on Population Movement, Kenyan Culture and Language, or DASC for short. The grant will fund travel to Nairobi, Kenya for 12 full-time faculty members during June 2025, and enables the expansion of JCCC area expertise on Africa more generally, and then population migration more specifically. So Dr. Mwangi, the project director, and JCCC are partnering with KU's Kansas African Studies Center, as well as the African Population and Health Research Center in Nairobi. Participants will develop curriculum and content on Africa as an area of study here at the college. And once the details are confirmed, the application process will be announced for the faculty participants with a deadline of September 6th for faculty to apply for that. The college also just was awarded another NSF grant, this time in partnership with KU, Pitt State, the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, KCKCC, Southeast Community College in Lincoln, Nebraska. Dr. Amanda Glass, who is an associate professor of chemistry here, and you also know her as now FA Uniserv representative. She's the co-PI on that project, and it will bring about $200,000 to JCCC to support our students for the next 5 years. The overall grant is actually about $3.5 million across all the institutions. The NSF Lewis Stokes Alliances for Minority Participation, or LSAMP, Grant enables the creation of alliances across institutions that support minority STEM students who receive stipends to participate in research, high-impact practice, educational opportunities, internships, personal and professional development, and it's all kind of geared towards like reinforcing their, persistence, success, and then transfer into science, STEM programs in four-year institutions, and then perhaps also beyond four-year institutions, beyond bachelor's. I'm also happy to report another successful new faculty orientation, which of course you did hear about last time. That wrapped up earlier today, and our Center for Teaching and Learning full-time faculty fellows, two of whom you met last month, work with Dr. Farrell Hoy-Janab, Elaine Sin, and the CTL to develop a robust introduction to JCCC that includes sessions on best practices in teaching and learning, as well as welcomes from a lot of folks from around the college. I think probably some of the people, yes, I see the head shaking, also introduce themselves to our new faculty. The new CTL space is also now fully furnished. Dr. Janab worked with Dr. Heather Carlisle Carter, an assistant professor of interior design, who volunteered her time to decorate the space. And Dr. Carlisle Carter created a very welcoming, relaxing, and inspiring space that kind of has the feel of a coffee shop, with the idea that faculty can come to work on their own, or they can come to collaborate with others, or simply just gather together and talk to each other. The concept was kind of in line with research demonstrating that faculty need a third space beyond like the office or a meeting room. And so they were actually able to acquire a bunch of furniture from the college surplus, as well as secondhand stores, making it a very low cost and sustainably kind of focused space and project. And they worked with Fine Arts to select 5 pieces of JCC student art that we had in the JCC collection, I guess, as well as the Nerman Museum, who donated one of their works for that space. The plan is basically to continue to study the usage of the space and then adapt as needed based on what they're learning in the research. So we're very excited about that. Next week are professional learning days. And basically with that, PLD week, folks from all over campus host various sessions to educate employees about a range of the college programs, initiatives, and whatever else is on the horizon. So just to give you an idea of like what the vastness of the PLD week is, we have things on the changes in Title IX policy, or a meet and greet with our human resources team, changes to the phone system, budgeting, the HLC accreditation coming up, conflict management, peer review, shared governance, teaching with AI, assessment, services provided by the library, sabbatical information and presentations, and then of course the all-campus updates meeting. And this is definitely not an exhaustive list. If you look at the calendar, there's like a bunch of stuff every day. So staff and faculty development work together and have a range of programs throughout the week. And then of course they do stuff throughout the year as well, but this is just the big gear up for the semester. School, of course, starts August 26th, and there are going to be a bunch of welcome week activities to help students get to know campus, kind of integrate them into the campus, and make them feel welcomed and like they belong here with us. Staff development works to recruit volunteers to support information hubs around campus and help them get around. And then Student Life and Leadership also plans a lot of fun activities that kind of bolster the college experience for the students. And then, now I'm just going to list a bunch of events. Harvest Dinner is, of course, Friday, August 23rd, and the reception starts at 6 p.m. with dinner to follow at 7 p.m. Harvest Dinner is a farm-to-table experience to support scholarships for students in our Sustainable Agriculture program. This year, local culinary expert chef Vincent Paredes from the farmhouse is preparing a 3-course meal crafted with fresh produce from JCCC's Open Petal Farm and through our Sustainable Ag program and some of our local partners. I do also want to say, related to sustainability, because sustainability really does help, works with a bunch of, like the foundation and a bunch of people to organize that event. But they're also helping organize another event that I forgot to put in, and I'm just going to pitch really quick. there's going to be a thrift and thrive market for students for their first apartments to help them get the things they need for their first apartment. And we're currently in the process of taking donations for that. And it's what they basically are, if you just Google Center for Sustainability, JCCC events, it's on that page. There's the donations rate like a bunch of kitchen items, a bunch of bed and bath items, and then just like other assorted things like light bulbs or whatever that, you know, I remember moving into my first apartment and much of my stuff came from people just giving it to me. And so this is a really nice treat to have this going for our students who are probably trying to find their way in a new apartment and a new place. And so I just wanted to let you know they are taking donations. You can drop them off at the Center for the Sustainability offices over in the Campus Services building and whatnot. Now back to my actual original report. Harvest Dinner is followed by the Light Up the Lawn program. And this is hosted by the Midwest Trust Center and the Nerman Museum. It's at 8:30. The Freedom Affair will be performing on the Nerman Museum lawn. They encourage attendees to bring chairs or blankets or picnic baskets, but it's alcohol-free, no alcohol. So just want to make sure to be that clear about that piece. And then two more, there's one more thing. That same evening is, of course, the the Faculty Association's Welcome Back Party from 4:30 to 10 p.m. at Quivira Falls Clubhouse. It's a very busy evening with JCCC things. But just to point out, we're around before and after Harvest Dinner, so you're welcome to join us if you're going to Harvest Dinner. I know a lot of people are, and several of our faculty are as well. So we'll be there, and we're having barbecue. Two last dates to put in front of you. One is CAV Kickoff, and that, of course, is organized by Student Life and Leadership. It's Wednesday, September 11th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. out in the courtyard area. Basically, this event, it's units around college that do tabling, and so students can get to know all of the resources around campus. There's a bunch of activities for students. They get food. It's a really fun, I think we even sometimes, they have different food stations around. So I see some of you there sometimes, and I'm always out there walking around. You're always going to see people walking around. The students love it. It's really engaging, and it's a great way to kind of welcome them back to the campus. I'm sorry I'm talking so long, first of all, but I am also wanting to take a moment to thank Ann Turney, Cassie Jordan, and Maya Lawrence, and all the folks in Student Life and Leadership for all the things they're doing to make our students feel like they belong here. And a couple of months ago when I was commenting about other thank yous, and I said, I hope I didn't forget anybody, and then the next day I was like, I know exactly who I forgot, and it was them. So I felt really terrible. I first met Ann Turney when I started here in 2017. She was organizing Constitution Day events and I wrote a trivia game. And from that's actually how we ended up with the monthly trivia contests in the food court. And then eventually, as Ann elevated through the organization, I worked with Cassie and Maya as well. And they are just they are a huge asset to this college. I really do appreciate all the stuff that they have helped me with, beyond just the trivia. So getting to know them, we have been able to work on a lot of different things, civic engagement-wise or other programming for students, because they are so supportive of the work here. And I just wanted to make sure that I did thank them because I forgot last time. Last but certainly not least, I also want to note the JCCC All-Employee Picnic is Friday, September 13th. From 5 to 8 p.m. This event is organized by Susan Hoffman and Staff Development. It's kind of a family-friendly atmosphere that includes catering. This time it will be Hayward's Barbecue, Taco Naco, and Minsky's Pizza. And then there's a lot of just games and activities. And I definitely have seen some of you there as well. So I know that you know what I'm talking about. College personnel and their families are welcome, and they are asking for people to RSVP via the website that they've created, just so they have a good idea of how much food to get. And they're asked to register by next Friday, the August 23rd. And I'm done talking.
Well then, that was a robust report.
Yes.
Any questions for Ms. View? Trustee Mitchell.
At the risk of asking a rather trivial question, can you tell us a little bit more about your trivia thing that you do once a month?
Oh, and I'll say Maya organizes this all now with student clubs and orgs. I forgot to say that piece. So she actually has student clubs hosting trivia events, and so But basically what it was at the time that I was helping, Anne or Maya or Cassie would organize all of the behind the scenes, like getting the AV there and all that. So I didn't do any of that. I wrote the questions in Kahoot, and I stood in front of a podium and I asked questions. I played the Kahoot game with the students. So basically it's a monthly trivia contest where there's usually about 10 quiz type questions, but they could be on a variety of topics, usually centered around what's going on that month. So whether it's, let's see, September, we're going to get to Hispanic Heritage Month, and then October is LGBT History Month. You know, November we have elections and Veterans Day and Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff. So just whatever is going on, and it's just a way for students like who are already in the lunchroom to kind of play along, and they get to play for prizes. So it's just like a really fun. It's almost like if you went to, I don't want to say a bar, but you know what I'm saying, like the trivia night. It's like that, but at college.
Like that,
Sure,
only
there's at
without
least
the
a handful
booze.
of students who make a point of being there every month.
Yes, and they do, and it's in, like, so the Student Life folks have the Get Involved calendar that puts up all of the events that are going on with students and clubs, and like my department has a page and we can put up our events on there. So students can scroll through the Get Involved calendar and kind of see, but they also do a really good job of marketing it in the sense of like making sure that there are flyers out and like there's a trivia game and you can win prizes, and it's just an overall like fun atmosphere.
You want to go now, don't you?
I kind of do.
You would be welcome to play. Now, I think you have to be a student to win, but you could still challenge the students to a good game.
Trustee Smith Everett, you had a question.
Yes, well, first of all, a question actually for Dr. Korb, a comment, never apologize for giving us the rah-rah cheerleadings. This is what we are all about, and I love it. And I love that you really celebrate all the different corners of the college, because it is so hard to describe to people how expansive this place is and how I don't know their uncle that's worked here for 17 years because there's so many people and so many events and so many great things happening. So I really appreciate, because it's hard when you're one step removed like we are, to really take all of that in and be as excited as you all are for our students to come and feel success here. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, sure. Dr. Korb, can we get a tour of this very fancy, I'm just going to coin it the Teacher's Lounge, new PLD, something spot, whatever the fancy name is, as well as all the renovations here. I keep peeking into the offices down the hall, and I think they're going to kick me out at some point. But I really would love an official tour for us, because I'd love to see all the new space and all the great things happening.
Well, we can certainly organize that. I was thinking when they were talking about the new space that I have not been up there either.
Oh, good.
So I need to check that out.
I was there yesterday. It's comfortable.
Yeah, I want to see. I love that it's a coffee shop vibe. That's really great. And you know, there's been, I don't know, maybe a year of really talking, lots of different people talking about the need for that collaboration space.
Yeah, and I didn't say this. Is Tom in here? I know I saw, there he is. I know that Farrell worked very closely with facilities to get that space up and going. So thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, very much. So thank you for highlighting that as well, because I think that celebrates the ability for all of these grants that we talk about that bring really cool different departments together to do things is great, but it'd be nice to just have that sort of authentically happen in other places and see what great things we can do with it. So thank you for highlighting that.
Thank you. Trustee Cross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Professor View, thank you for speaking. I don't think I've ever seen a leader give up a microphone more than you do. So we're happy to have you talk. I've never seen anybody give up a microphone like you do.
No, I sometimes think I talk too much, so like why not have other?
Thank you for having Trustee Mitchell and I yesterday to the luncheon for
yeah,
the new
absolutely.
faculty. And I did talk about the fact that the Trump campaign had President Sean O'Brien of the Teamsters speak at the RNC, and how important I thought that was, because Republicans are in unions too, and that we need to reach working people in that way. And I want to thank you. I've dealt with many of your predecessors, all of whom I consider friends, and many others in leadership that I'm busy and human, so I mostly deal with the FA leadership. But you make unions accessible and human, and then have fun with it. And I don't mean this in any insulting way, but you absolutely help promote this place in a positive manner. And yet we've been on opposite sides of a table. So I appreciate the civil manner and leadership that you exhibit. It's appreciated.
Well, I want to thank you for that, and I do want to add a little bit because I know that it's something that Judy and I have talked about. I've talked about with several other administrators. Like, I think there's a lot of us at this college that want to create a more collaborative, like, civil, positive vibe, or if there's, and so that means that the faculty need to participate in that, and being that I am in this role, that means that I need to lead in that effort. So I'm happy that you are feeling that way, because I think there's a bunch of us around campus that are really trying to cultivate that. But it's a process.
Trustee Rattan, did you have a question?
Just a statement. Thank you, because I love how you squeeze in as many names to recognize as you can. So take a breath and take your time with that. And I especially want to highlight Maya Lawrence again. If you've not seen her interact with students, she is kind of like teen mom, or like sorority mom to them, or dad, but she really connects with the students. I think she really pushes them to achieve more and to get involved. And I really appreciate her leadership as well as your leadership here as well.
Yeah, Maya is wonderful. And, I love, we've recently been working on something else together. And so just being able to be in meetings with her and like get her input is like extremely invaluable. I should apologize. I don't want to say sorry. I'm like, sorry. I was talking really fast because I had so many things I wanted to say, and so I will talk slower in the future.
It's just like Joe Biden.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions for Andrea? I promise I will never gavel you down. We always appreciate your comments, and I'll echo the comments of my fellow trustees. We've enjoyed having you during your tenure and look forward to having you back. Your comments are always positive and constructive, and I always enjoy hearing what's going on. I found myself thinking as you were talking tonight that if someone who knew nothing about our institution just tuned into this meeting and heard you talk about everything that was going on, they would be pretty convinced that they were listening to the events occurring at one of the finest four-year universities in our country. And a lot of that is made possible through grant work and just the faculty coming together to support that and facilitate that. I was particularly interested in your discussion about the grant that's going to take some of our faculty to Kenya. I don't know how that decision will be made about who gets to go, but what a great opportunity to have some interdisciplinary participation in something that then can result in some sharing across the curriculum about something that really could be just an incredibly valuable experience. And so that sounds super exciting. You almost sounded excited about PLD days as well. You tried really hard to get yourself kind of pumped up for that. So so that's wonderful. Actually, there's always such great topics, and I can remember when I attended PLD that it was always hard to decide which sessions I was going to go to because there's so much going on. So so that'll be a wonderful week, and so everybody can enjoy that as kind of a ramp up to get back to students coming back on campus and back to what it is that we do. So yeah, thank you so much.
I do want to plug Dr. Mwangi. I ran into her as I was coming in this afternoon, and we were talking about this Fulbright, and I think she's very excited. Obviously, we all are. But in terms of faculty, we're definitely trying to make sure that the people that participate, well, I say we, she is definitely trying to make sure that the people that participate in that program understand it's obviously a privilege, but it's also going to be a responsibility because you're committing to going to all of the things that they've set up in Kenya, and then you're also committing to develop programming and content when you get back. And so this is going to be kind of a longer, more than just the June 2025, but it will, take us into a nice content area thing like you're talking about. So
Yeah, what a great opportunity. So thanks to everybody who participated in that.
Maybe we could supervise.
Well, it's on my bucket list to go to Africa, so, just saying. Seriously, though, thank you for your comments. If there's no further questions, thank you so much. Enjoy your last few days of summer.
Wait, you've never been to Africa?
Well, I have been to portions of Africa, but not like the safari, see the elephants,
I'm
go to
sorry.
Kenya
That
piece.
must have been.
So maybe you'll go with me. That brings us to the Johnson County Education Research Triangle Report and Trustee Smith Everett.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. JCERT received $2.2 million in sales tax in July and distributed $750,000 to each of the 3 university entities for a total of $4.856 million distributed year to date. Year to date. I have I will be visiting, we had to readjust, I just started a new job, so we had to readjust my tour for Olathe, and then we will be meeting in October at KU Edwards. So I will be going to K-State Olathe for a tour, and we will be meeting at KU Edwards in October, and I'll have new, fresh information after that October visit. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions for Trustee Smith Everett? Trustee Cross, was that a yes, a no?
No, sorry.
Okay. Congratulations on your new job, once again in the world of academia, which is what you've pretty much devoted your career to, so congratulations to you. Next on the agenda is the KACC report and Trustee Cross.
I was clicking on my screen to pull up that I needed to tell you, we didn't meet, I don't have a report, but we are meeting next week at the Kansas City, Kansas Community College. I think it's nearby. And then we'll meet again on December 6th and 7th at Labette County Community College. I know that there's been a lot of interest next week in KCK, so I think it was Caitlin or someone in Dr. Corb's office that said, or Heather Morgan had asked, let us know who wants to go.
Yeah.
There's a dinner that night. I think Jennifer and I are going to be going with Trustee Ingram and her husband to the Harvest Dinner, so we'll come back up here, or down here. But we're meeting next week in KCK and then again in Labette in December. So that concludes my report.
Thank you for that. Any questions for Trustee Cross? Trustee Rattan?
What are the logistics for the KCK meeting again? Day and time?
I can get that to you. Heather sent an email. The presidents are mustering Thursday night, and then we usually meet at like 11:30.
I sent it out yesterday
Friday.
with some details, and then she told me an agenda would be out on Friday with a few more
Yeah,
details.
I apologize. I don't have it memorized, but I can get it to you.
If Caitlin has sent it, I'll look for it.
Sure.
Dinner Friday night and morning meeting till 11 or something.
We usually go over some legislative issues or other issues Saturday morning at breakfast, and then usually we're out somewhere in the state, but they'll give us a box lunch like at 12 or 12:30 and then get us out of there so everyone can get home at a reasonable hour on Saturday. So there is programming Friday and Saturday, and I think when we hosted, when was that, 3 or 4 years ago? I think I was the only trustee not there that day.
Yeah.
But everyone's welcome, and we sure would appreciate you. And then our perspective is, it's an interesting one, like, people generally don't know how to handle a Johnson County person, so it's important to just be nice and polite, which all of you will. But at the same time, we have a different and unique perspective, and Heather Morgan, our executive director at KCC, has always encouraged me to go.
Mm-hmm.
And we surely have a different perspective than a lot of our fellow trustees, who are our strong allies in the legislature for our budget. And it's a fabulous organization that helps us quite a bit, so we hope you can make it.
Trustee Smith Everett?
Is the night the same night as Harvest Dinner?
Yes.
Oh, shoot. Golly, that night is
We're back in the
packed.
season where there's
Yeah,
we're triple
darn it.
booked.
I was just gonna say my 2 cents, because when we hosted, it was like within the first couple months I was new to the board, that we hosted, Dr. Sopchak was the president, and we hosted. It is, I think, I would just say it's really important that we have a presence, because it is not often on this side of the state, and just being there lets them know we think these issues are important. We think this organization is critical to community colleges of Kansas, so going to something is better than not doing anything and not having a presence. They had a very large presence when we hosted. I think a bunch, if not a majority of their board came to ours, so.
I think that's right, and if I may build on it, Madam Chair. There's a lot of issues at play right now, and I don't really want to make this a political football, but there's a lot of issues and tensions right now with the regents, and it is critical that we show up and support KACC because there's, in my humble opinion, an effort to divide us from the rest of the member institutions. And both my parents are from rural Kansas, my dad from Leavenworth County, and my mother from Rooks County. And so JCCC was an awesome blessing and a second chance opportunity for our family. And it's critical that the rest of the state hears us say that. Like, we're not just trying to be fat cats taking up a state budget. Like, we put in our own money, that we have the opportunity to contribute from local mill levies that, frankly, the rest of our neighbors don't, or they're raising crazy high mill levies. So they need us in a huge way, and if we don't hang together, I think we'll hang separately. So I think that you're absolutely right, and I don't mean to belabor the point.
Any other questions for Trustee Cross? Certainly, I would echo the importance of everyone who can attending the meeting. Unfortunately, I will not be there. I have an annual trip camping with some family friends' children every year when they have their anniversary. I will be kayaking on the lake, so nice. There's that. But I do think it's important that we be there, and I wish I could be there. So hopefully we'll have a good showing. Thank you for your report. And with that, the foundation report, Trustee Hamill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Summon Chan evening is set for November 9th, in case anybody's been sleeping. There are still sponsorship opportunities available. We are 3/4 the way to our income goal. Tickets and tables are still available. And there are still underwriting opportunities. And as Andrea View mentioned, the harvest dinner is sold out. There is that light up the lawn that night. So please come out to that if you still want to attend. Back to School Community Social is set for Tuesday, August 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. In the FADS building. Please join us for network and thank our community supporters and foundation board. There's a reception honoring the Johnson Countyans of the Year, Carl and Jill Gerlach, and will be held on Tuesday, September 10th at the Overland Park Convention Center. Join us September 11th for the JCC Foundation Scholarship Luncheon. This will be held in the Capitol Federal Room here at the Regency Center from 11:30 to 1. Tickets are on sale now for the free to be an evening of 1960s fashion at the Johnson County Museum. September 18th at 5:30 p.m. The foundation is partnering with the museum and the fashion design and merchandising team to host a VIP event featuring the historic fashion design collection, which is part of an exhibit at Johnson County Museum. Tickets are $50 and will help support the JCCC historical fashion collection. The Hudson Foundation has invited the JCC Foundation to apply for a $50,000 grant to support the Midwest Trust Performing Arts Center at the Nerman Museum. A new spendable scholarship of $20,000 will support the fire safety student spring semester, thanks to supporters at AT&T. And the Hall Family Foundation increased their grant to JCC Foundation from $25,000 to $30,000 to support the performing arts education and arts and integration. That concludes my report.
Thank you for that. Any questions for Trustee Hamill? Don't forget to get your tickets for some Enchanted Evening. You certainly don't want to miss that. I, for one, am super excited about recognizing this year's Johnson Countyans of the Year, Carl and Jill Gerlach. They've made such an incredible contribution to so many things in the county over the years. And it's always such a fun event with lots of music and dancing, and the food is incredible. So get your tickets and support the foundation in that regard. And thank you so much for reminding us of all those wonderful other events.
Definitely.
That takes us to our committee reports and recommendations, and we'll start with the Audit Committee. I was unable to attend the Audit Committee meeting this month, or this quarter, I should say, because I was away with family. So Trustee Smith-Everett, you carried the torch for me, and I'll look to you for the report.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Audit Committee met in this very room on Thursday, August 1st, and We had our brand-new senior auditor, Jeff Johnson, present the payroll process assessment. He provided background on the payroll process, internal control design, effectiveness assessment. How's that for a mouthful? He noted the project assessed the current state of processes and procedures for payroll. Mr. Johnson stated the risks identified had been addressed by management and improvements are being implemented. The annual trustee expense reimbursement report was presented, also by Mr. Johnson, provided an update on this board's annual same-day and overnight travel expenses for JCCC trustees for fiscal year 2024. At this moment, we are not out of control, but some of you will be getting a phone call. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. He noted that all the travel expenses appear to be reasonable and directly related to the conduct of college business, so we passed muster on that one. Quarterly projects update, Mr. Johnson said the Audit and Advisory Office is planning for an annual audit risk assessment, and a proposed plan will be presented for review at the November meeting. He also said that the ethics point system is under review. This was a large point of discussion, but basically ethics point has been this kind of house that kept all kinds of different reports that we don't all need to have in that. And so they're discussing and looking at what it does need to have and what it doesn't. He will be attending the ACUA Higher Education Summit in September. He is also revising our professional internal auditing standards that become effective in January 2025. He shared updates on the status of the bookstore audit and said the bookstore staff have addressed all the previous findings and developed procedures for future audits. Mr. Johnson provided a quarterly summary report on the ethics report line for April 23rd through July 21st, 2024. There have been 10 reports that were received, and all cases have been addressed and closed. Mr. Johnson also said that 7 cases were received via HR channels, and those have also been addressed and closed. The 2025 Audit Committee working agenda was discussed, and some changes were made, and so that is why I'm going to be bringing forth the recommendation of the Audit Committee that the Board of Trustees approve the 2025 Audit Committee working agenda, and I will move to make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Moved by Trustee Smith Everett, seconded by Trustee Cross. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And Trustee Jennings, I am informed that you're there on the phone, and hearing no nay, motion carries 7-0. You may continue with your report.
Thank you. The next Audit Committee meeting is Thursday, November 7th, and that concludes my report, Madam Trustee.
Thank you very much. Any final questions for Trustee Smith Everett before we move on? Perfect. Next up is the Board Governance Committee, and Trustee Mitchell, I believe you have a report for us.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Board Governance Committee met at 11:45 on Wednesday, August 7th, 2024 in this room. The Board Governance Committee reviewed the numbers and selection of trustees policy, which is 111-01, the committee's policy, which is 111-03. The committee did not propose any changes to these policies. The committee reviewed the officers' policy 111-02 and proposed language changes are found on pages 3 to 7 of the board packet. Any questions on that?
Does that conclude your report?
No.
Oh.
There's a recommendation and does not include.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and make the recommendation, and then we'll entertain any questions.
It is the recommendation of the Board Governance Committee that the Board of Trustees approve modifications to Officers Policy 111-02 as shown subsequently in the board packet. And I so move.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Mitchell, seconded, was that Trustee Rattan? Mm-hmm. Seconded by Trustee Rattan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may continue.
Thank you. Trustees Mitchell, that's me, and Rattan discussed the importance of board self-review, and we have reached out to ACCT for guidance. Additionally, topics for the fall retreat were discussed, which include the board self-review ALICE training, and the strategic plan process. Based on availability, the retreat has been set for Monday, September 16th at 5 p.m. I'm sorry, Laura. I know that not everyone could make that time. Details will be provided in the coming weeks. The next Board Governance Committee is on November the 6th, 2024, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Mitchell. Any questions? I'm excited about the upcoming retreat. It's kind of like herding cats to get us there. So for those who can attend, it'll be a great opportunity. It's unfortunate that it's hard to get all of us in one place at one time, but I think they're very useful. I know that Elisa Pacer has some exciting stuff planned for us about ALICE training, and so I'll look forward to that and whatever else you guys have planned for the retreat. So. Next up is the Employee Engagement and Development Committee report and Trustee Jennings. But since you're on the phone, I believe Trustee Cross is going to be your wingman here and give us your report.
Pitch hitting. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Employee Engagement and Development Committee met August 7th, 2024 at 10:45 a.m. Michelle Oldie, Matt Wheeler, and Holmes Murphy presented the employee benefit plans renewal information for 2025. Claims for medical and prescription plans are tracking above the contracted target amount. The initial renewal premium increase was projected at 12%. Through negotiations with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, there will be a 5% rate increase for medical coverage in 2025. The estimated annual premium amount for the employee group medical insurance for benefit plan year 2025 is $22,390,585. Madam Chair, it is the recommendation of the Employee Engagement and Development Committee and the administration that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to renew the Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City contract for employee group medical insurance from January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. And I so move.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Cross, seconded by Trustee Mitchell. Do we have any discussion? I would just want to comment, I can't recall exactly how long we've been using Holmes Murphy. It's been a long time. They do a tremendous job at negotiating down our rates to avoid double-digit increases, and it looks like they've done it again. So kudos to them, and thanks for all that they do. And with that, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You can continue with your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A rate increase of 11.5% was projected for Delta Dental. And through negotiations with this vendor, there will be, again, a 5% rate increase for dental coverage in 2025. The estimated annual premium amount for employee group dental insurance for benefit plan year 2025 is $859,866. And so, Madam Chair, it is the recommendation of the Employee Engagement and Development Committee. Didn't this used to be HR?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so we had to add more.
Don't you say that every time?
That the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to renew the Delta Dental of Kansas contract for employee group dental insurance from January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. And I so move.
Motion made by Trustee Cross, seconded by Trustee Smith-Everett. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may continue.
Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Trustee Jennings, unless she had anything else to add, I guess I should say. So.
Trustee Jennings, did you have anything to add? Hearing none, as I stare at the ceiling once again. We'll move along to our Management and Finance Committee report, and Trustee Hamel.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. The Management and Finance Committee held their meeting at 8:30 on Wednesday, August 7th. The information related to the meeting can be found on pages 11 through 17 of the board packet. Tom Hall and Brett Edwards presented the annual overview of the capital infrastructure inventory and replacement plan and related systems and process. Ms. Rachel Lears presented information on the faculty rental agreement template. Details can be found in the consent agenda on page 30 of the board packet. Tom Hall also provided an update on the status of the CDL driving range project and progress of the GEB first floor renovations currently under construction on campus. And we have the date for the ribbon cutting as well, right?
It's October 4th.
October 4th.
Yes.
October 4th, okay. Janelle Vogler presented a recommendation related to the publication of the notices of the public hearing for the college fiscal year 2024-25 legal budget. She noted the revenue neutral rate hearing and the budget hearing will be held during the board trustees meeting at 5 p.m. on September 19th, 2024. It is a recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to authorize the publication of the notice of budget hearing and notice of revenue neutral rate hearing for the 24-25 budget year, and I so move.
Second.
Moved by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Smith Everett. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may continue.
Jim Fikert reviewed for bid the single source recommendation, MCT generator replacement improvements. It is the recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the bid from Vasquez Commercial Contracting LLC for MTC generator replacement in the amount of $189,633 with an additional contingency of $18,963 to allow for a possible unforeseen cost for the total amount of $208,596. And I so move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Cross. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may continue.
Okay. We also have a food supply recommendation. It is the recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the proposal from U.S. Foods Premier for an estimated base year of $750,000 and a total estimated expenditure of $3.75 throughout the renewal options. And I so move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Cross. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may continue.
We also have a software subscription. It is a recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the cooperative purchase from vCloud Tech for a total estimated expenditure of $155,855. And I so move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Rattan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may continue.
Okay, last one. We have contract training courses for technical programming. It is the recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the single source justification to microdata systems for $260,000. And I so move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Cross. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may continue.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you for your report, and I just want to reiterate, I know I've said this at past meetings, but it would appear, if you were just listening to this portion of the meeting, that we're spending, millions of dollars with little thought and no discussion. All of these things have been thoroughly vetted in committee, and we've had an opportunity to discuss them prior to the board meeting tonight, so it's not like we're just spending money without giving it any thought. So thank you for your report. Next up, the Student Success Committee and trustee Rattan.
The Student Success Committee met on August the 7th at 2024. We had one agenda item where Sheila Maupin presented 2 memorandums of understanding, also known as MOUs, and one internship cooperative agreement. The agreements were approved by the committee, and complete details can be found subsequently on the consent agenda of the August 15th board packet. That concludes my report.
All right, any questions for trustee Rattan? That was very succinct. Thank you for that. Next up is the president's recommendation for action, and we'll start with the treasurer's report and trustee Hamel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board packet includes the preliminary unaudited treasurer's report for the month ending of June 30th, 24. At the time of publication, the college's fiscal year and closing process was not complete. Therefore, this report does not reflect all year-end adjusting entries. The highlight include an ad valorem tax distribution of $50,251,237 was received from the county treasurer during June and was recorded as followed. So 47 million to the general fund and 123,000 to the special assessment fund and 3 million to the capital outlay fund for a total of $50,251,237. Expenditures of the primary operating funds are within the approved budgetary limits. It is the recommendation of the college administration and the Board of Trustees approve the treasurer's report for the month ending June 30th, 24, subject to audit. And I so move.
Second.
Moved by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Mitchell. Any discussion about the treasurer's report? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may continue.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much for that, and that brings us to our wonderful interim president, Dr. Korb, and your monthly report to the board.
Exciting report.
Exciting report,
Yes.
okay.
Okay. So our credit enrollment is remaining strong, although momentum has slowed just a little bit. Currently, we're up 5.9% in headcount, which is really like 6%. And 4.9% in credit hours, which is a lot like 5%. Okay, so last month, though, when we were talking about this, the question came up regarding what we are doing that we think might have contributed to an increase in enrollment. So this led to us taking a little bit of a closer look at some of our data, and so we have some good news to report. Over the last 4 years, and this is kind of what Dr. McLeod was talking about when you asked the question of, so we had this whole conversation, part of this is my report, but that's when we realized there is so much more to this that we need to bring it up in committee and really go through it. But so over the last 4 years, Dr. McLeod and his team have implemented several strategies to meet our KPI targets for increased retention rates. And although we haven't quite hit those KPI targets yet, we're showing a steady increase in the overall retention rate trends. And so our continuing student count, fall to fall, is up 6.1% right now. And in addition to that, previously attended student count is up 5.8%, which represents returning students that are back after they stopped out at some point for various reasons. So when we were talking about this, we know that some of the strategies that we've operationalized, and this is where this is like some, not all, because it's a lot more, but one of them is the Academic Achievement Center remodel and the consolidation of academic resources for students. And our 2 student athletes talked about that and the use of the Academic Achievement Center. That change also includes providing more tutoring options. So there are tutoring options both online and in person. AAC hired a person specifically responsible for triaging early alert notices from faculty to ensure that the right follow-up takes place. Before that responsibility was kind of spread around, and so now there's more accountability to make sure that that happens. The job responsibilities were changed for the success coaches to include more touch points with students during the semester. And that's part of that overall restructure within counseling. That's just one of the things. Another thing, and this is where we got into kind of a long discussion, has to do with data that was gathered on the students' first semester classes, so their first 5 classes or first 15 hours. And so we gathered the data on their success and that kind of thing. And the counselors can use that to help students avoid class schedules that have toxic combinations. So courses that, it's not a good idea to take those 2 things together. There's not a very good success rate when those 2 things are taken together. But there's more to that, and that's what Mickey and I got into when we were talking about it and decided we need more of a presentation on that. So there's more to follow on what might be working there. At times, there are also external factors that contribute to increases and decreases in our enrollment. And the fact that unemployment is currently trending up, it may have some influence over our increase in enrollment, which is not really something we have done, but it is something that we respond to. So that is good news on that. We also had a day-long cabinet retreat just to bring the group together and spend some focused time on leadership. We discussed how to successfully lead organizational change. We talked about our individual leadership styles and our group leadership profile. In addition to that, we spent some time talking about building trust within the group, but also building trust across campus. And we looked at our strategic planning process and where we might recommend going from here. And so I asked Dr. McLeod if he would give you just a brief overview of what we talked about with the strategic planning part of that retreat.
All right.
Should we bring it up?
Waiting for the magic to happen.
Always. Technology is fun.
Yeah. It's not my favorite thing.
Maybe want to play elevator music?
Always. So if you think about the way in which we function through strategic planning, most people assume that the college functions as a series of individualized offices kind of unconnected to one another. A lot of the conversation that we have oftentimes with board members is to try and help understand how cabinet offices and other offices of the college actually function together so that we are not in silos. Because for a lot of people, particularly at the grassroots level, it appears to be siloed and not well thought through if they do not understand how the offices actually connect with one another throughout the process. So the strategic plan really provides an overarching umbrella for us that we then operationalize around. So if you look at our current structure, the strategic plan provides us with a series of 4 kind of overarching goals. But we have beneath that the layer that actually creates the operational structures that holds up not just the concepts that are kind of those overarching goals, but the actual things that we are attempting to accomplish within a specific time. Most strategic plans are designed to be roughly 5 years. So you try to look at what you think you can accomplish within a 5-year period, and you start to set those markers out there to aim for. In our particular case, we look at the academic master plan that was completed over the last 2 years. We're looking at a workforce development master plan that will dovetail. I consider those pieces kind of coterminous as educational opportunities because those are students, whether they come to us for credit or for non-credit, they are students who function for us as part of the core mission in terms of our ability to teach and learn. Then we have the strategic enrollment plan, which really takes its cues from the concepts in those other 2 areas. What kinds of students are we trying to attract? Where are our students when they come to us? What sorts of structures do we need to put in place for them to both feel a sense of belonging, but also for them to get the kinds of help that they need depending on how they come to us, whether they have learning issues, whether they are several years out of school, and so some of those tools are a little rusty, and we need to shine those up. How are we going about bringing students to us? Are we advertising appropriately and utilizing our folks in strategic marketing so that the community knows and understands what we offer? Those sorts of things are answered within our strategic enrollment plan. And then we feed from those stretches into our facilities master plan, where we look at are buildings and grounds actually meeting those needs? Do we have the appropriate infrastructure for programming and specific programs and in specific offerings that we might have. What does our safety and security look like? Do we offer folks easy commerce across the campus? Wayfinding has been a big issue over the last several years because we have grown, and so many folks who have not set foot on the campus in a long time find themselves a little confused. They don't recall, these 2 or 3 buildings, or maybe they weren't here the last time they were on campus. And so all of these pieces fit together in a way that they feed one another. And so we pivot to make sure that we start with the core mission of how do we address our students and what those teaching and learning needs are, and then everything else begins to feed from that, but changes that occur in any other space then affect how we think about dealing with our students. So you'll note that there's not, in this particular chart, one-way arrows. Everything feeds back and forth across everything else because we have to be able to kind of tack into the winds that come from every part of our planning to make sure that the operation flows smoothly. I give you an example of some of what we're looking at. So if you look at our strategic plan as currently construed, Goal 1, Strategy 2 was to successfully transition students to JCCC. That's our overarching idea. The Academic Master Plan has as Goal 1, Objective 2 in that plan to provide state-of-the-art instructional facilities as appropriate for the disciplines. So we have to start to look at, those of you who have been around for a while, I know that Trustee Cross, Trustee Smith-Everett, and Trustee Rail in her previous time on the board have heard us talk about the changing of the way students are coming to us from much higher level facilities in K-12. They have a sense of technology. They have an understanding of the way in which their learning styles are affected by that technology, and they're used to having access to one-to-one machining and some of those things. We have to make sure that we are up to par when a student comes here for a program opportunity, that we are providing them not just the best service one-to-one, but also appropriate technology that emulates what they will face when they either transfer to a four-year institution or move themselves out into the workforce. So our programming is constantly having to ramp up our facilities needs. The strategic enrollment plan and feeding into transitioning students shows to build awareness of the college and what we have to offer as Goal 1, Objective 1. Students don't always know what we offer. I know that trustees have often been in public settings where I've heard people speak of us as the best kept secret in Johnson County, and they're surprised that we have a program in automated engineering technology. They're surprised that we have a program in machine tool. They're surprised that we offer the level of electronics beyond our HVAC stuff that feeds. So we need to always be thinking about doing a better job of transitioning students by helping them understand what opportunities exist here that really attract them to our programming. And then there is a sub-goal that is to adopt technology that allows for unique student recruitment experiences. Different students approach a college in different ways. Some see it as a transfer portal. Some see it as a job opportunity. Some see it as a place they are afraid to go. They fear that they do not belong there. They do not necessarily know whether their language needs will be met if they are non-native speakers who are coming to us as English language learners, which we have a number of throughout the county. And so we have to adapt our approach to student recruitment so that we can speak to the students in the way in which they need to be spoken to, so they can hear us and see and hear what we offer. That's part of that comfortable transition, that they realize what they're coming here for and understand what opportunities exist for them while they're here. Some possible things as we start to work on our workforce development plan. Are there needs we have in welcoming students into community enrichment coursework that maybe we have not thought about, ways in which folks aren't coming here for career opportunities, but just to pick up a single skill that they want to pick up as a personal enrichment opportunity. We have not advertised those alongside our credit opportunities over the years in the same way. That work used to be done through mailers, through community connections and physical mailing. Well, as we've transitioned to a time when more of this is done online and more of that recruitment piece happens through commercials and through connections with folks who are clicking through our website, how are we doing that work? What about flexibility for employee training that meets the needs of business partners? Are we looking at specific times of year, specific types of training that we offer just in time for business partners who are looking to bring in new crops of employees and need specific things? We do that work very well, and it's very well known within our business community, but our community at large does not know the amount of work that happens in continuing ed in meeting those kinds of needs. How do we step out into making sure that folks understand that? And all of that then looks in our facilities master planning efforts as, well, how do we meet all of these needs within our technology infrastructure, not just our physical buildings, but our ability to connect to the appropriate technology. When you look at what you just approved for our VMware, that VMware not only helps us do the work of the college for our employees, but a suite of that VMware is deployed in our labs for our draftsmen over in the architecture program, so that students who are taking online drafting program classes do not have to then find a way to fund those heavy graphics packages required to actually draw up the blueprints. You can VM through your home machine into our machines on campus and use our infrastructure to be able to actually draw up those blueprints, do your homework, facilitate your learning without us putting that cost back onto a student to have to then be able to personally own that technology. The campus can own that technology and then share it out through VMware. So we have these connections. And so if you look at the bottom of this, I showed throughout this, when people think, that's all academic or it's all CE, within just this particular goal and this one example, we have cabinet level connections with finance and administration, which handles IT and all of the work of our infrastructure physically, academic affairs, student success and engagement, continuing education, strategic marketing and communications, institutional research and assessment, our Office of Inclusion and Belonging. All of those offices are all working in concert just to deal with the issues raised by this single thought piece from the overarching strategic plan. So this gives you a sense of how we move through connecting all of the work that happens at the cabinet level and then across all the offices of the college with just a single point within an idea of the strategic plan. I gave you a second example here that's in your packet that you can look through. I won't go through this whole one, but when we talk about encouraging employee growth, you have to recognize that finance and administration, academic affairs, student success, continuing ed, human resources, inclusion and belonging all play a part in us doing things like fostering a culture of continuous professional growth for our folks, planning and executing things like the new collaboration center for faculty. The trainings that actually will be offered in that space are trainings that are developed by our folks in faculty development and in employee development. So we don't just buy things that we bring in from the outside. We have professionals who develop training for our folks to better understand their work here within the infrastructure that we provide and how to best bring all of that to fruition. And so Dr. Korb and I talked a little bit. We have different views of how all of this works. Hers is a little more detailed, but this is what happened when you put an English major in charge of a campus, as opposed to somebody who's much more well-versed in business. Hers really looks like a flow chart of an operation, from the top, which is that overarching strategic planning ideal, down through the various subgroups that work on that in a more hierarchical way. For me, it's a series of cogwheels. We're all connected together and we turn, but if any one of those cogwheels turns in the opposite direction because we have to adjust for something, then all of the rest of the cogs turn in the opposite direction to meet and mesh with that need. And so we're constantly adjusting and changing our approach because everything that we do has to be in concert across the college. No one office can ever accomplish any of the goals that we set forth. everybody has to always be moving in concert. And so I see this as kind of a large machine, and that machine adjusts to the inputs that we give it every single day for everything that we ask folks to do. And so that gives us a sense of kind of where we are with how the strategic plan works. Now, to that end, Dr. Korb has commissioned me to carry out a couple of meetings. We started with the first one today with the cabinet to look at, so we're coming close to the end of a strategic planning of our last strategic plan. It was set to sunset this year. Recognizing that we will have a new president coming in, one of the things that we've set our feet to try to do is bring you some opportunities for conversation pieces in a few months where we want to extend the current strategic plan for at least 2 years, giving the new president an opportunity to come in, have some work that we've already set KPIs for, we've already been moving towards and working towards, instead of the expectation that they come in without a real knowledge of the organization, without a knowledge of the players or an understanding of the community, and come up with a new strategic plan off the cuff within their first 6 to 8 months. That is one of the downfalls, I think, of college leadership across the country, is that we pivot so often when we see presidents shifting every 3 to 5 years across institutions. Strategic plans are expected to be new for every president, and so continuity has been lacking at a lot of institutions across the country. We'd like Johnson County to have that continuity, and so we'd like to bring forward to you some of our ideas of how we can extend that strategic plan, recast a few of the pieces to move away from things that we have already accomplished, so that we can focus on the pieces that maybe we have not gotten to yet, and give 2 years of time for us to be moving forward and completing some tasks without expecting someone to come in cold and create a completely new infrastructure, start over from scratch. That gives some continuity for the folks on campus who actualize those plans and do that operational work, and allows us to create substrata for operations that is much more firm in foundation and gives them an opportunity to learn the institution, to really think about thoughtfully how they would like to move forward in the future. And so those are things that we'll be bringing forward here in a couple of months to you to discuss and think about as you have your next retreat. Our plan is to have some of that work done so that we can think through together how that is designed before we go out to the campus to talk to the whole campus about kind of our future strategic planning efforts. And so we've really begun that work kind of in earnest today.
Thank you for that, Dr. McLeod.
That concludes our report.
Any questions to either Dr. Korb or Dr. McLeod about any of the information that they just discussed with us? Trustee Cross.
Thank you, Dr. Korb. Thank you, Dr. McLeod, for the report. Dr. McLeod, with respect to constantly changing and adjusting, could you give us some examples of like how, it's my understanding and perception that Cabinet is essentially an organic think tank where you all bounce ideas off each other and you help see different sides and angles. Because in an adversarial system, as an attorney, we like to think there's two sides, and there isn't. There's often multiple sides to what's going on. So could you give us some examples of like how different departments or different potentially silos have to be educated and understanding of what's going on in a different department and then adjusting to what's going on?
Yeah, so a perfect example that we've had over the last couple of years is a program that CE is getting ready to start, that is a partnership with a couple of our local companies to work on some diesel mechanics pieces. So that idea for diesel mechanics came from some community members who looked at our automotive program when we opened the CTEC building a few years ago. They saw what we were doing and they would like for us to ramp that up, but credit could not do it. So when the credit side of academic affairs looked at that, we recognized that to do a full program on site would require yet another building, which we had just funded the building of 2 new buildings. We'd extended all these programs, so we needed to slow down. We could not then do that work. So as we shifted that, continuing education, which often has a little bit more latitude with the way in which they can leverage partnerships, came in and said, well, without us doing a full-blown program in credit, passing that through KBOR, being able to show to HLC that we have adequate on-site facilities, Elisa's folks started working with some of our local contractors who have garaging space and have need coming for diesel mechanics, that we could design a program through CE to do that training on site in their garages during times that they have lower business count, so they're not losing business. It then makes a community connection for the college for us to be able to show that we're working hand in glove with our local businesses. But we can build that through CE and then be able to support that curriculum building on the credit side. And if it becomes, critical mass to where we now need to look at whether or not we want to try and bring that as a full piece onto campus, then we can look at spaces and places where through facilities master planning, we might then build out appropriate garages, take the time to run that through the Board of Regents to create the full degree as opposed to the certificate option through CE. Other offices then have a part in that, because when Elisa and her folks build that piece, we have not just what's happening in academics and CE, we also have the opportunity for the foundation then to step in and leverage some of that as ways to show our work in the community, to bring in more funding from individuals who might want to donate to the college. We see strategic marketing and communications then stepping in to help us build brochures and marketing pieces and press releases around that sort of work. Then we think about how we accommodate our contracts for the MOUs for that piece. Our general counsel's office helps us design those contracts. If and when there comes a point when there's a specialty piece that's a part of that, then we would need to build contracts to bring in specialty contract trainers to help us do some of that work. And so there's this constant kind of moving flow with something that might have started as an idea that came from the community or an idea that comes up through the faculty.
Let me interrupt you. Sort of like CDL.
Yes, CDL is a great example of it. The plumbing program, which actually started in CE with a few folks who noted that we needed more plumbers and were not having a great deal of luck building those through the plumbers union. And now we have a full-blown program that is now moving into its second set of laboratories on this campus. And it's completely full. It's 98% seat fill. So there's a constant kind of ebb and flow to the way in which we work with one another. Sometimes we start these things off as rough ideas that we just try to fill in the gaps and see where we can meet a community need. Sometimes we recognize that we can dive in, whole hog, like with our electronics program with Garmin, where we built that space out, but we were in the middle of a facilities master plan and had a technical building kind of on the horizon. We were able to see that coming, build that program out, hire for it, and have it ready to go. And we now have a full electronics program that is partnered with Garmin. But we were able to do that because we were in the middle of a planning process that had space in it for us to pivot and think about things that were coming forward from the community.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Did you have a question, Trustee Smith-Everett?
I did, but it was to Dr. Korb. Well, it was not. It was to the rest of the cabinet. So we're going to use the old teacher trick for everyone in here that's on the cabinet. If you participated in the cabinet retreat and you don't want others to know, we can just do right here in front of the chest. This is what we do in school. If they don't want to let everybody know they liked it or they didn't like it. I just wanted to know if you found the retreat helpful. I am acutely aware of your own professional growth. And when I was speaking with Dr. Korb about it, for many, they couldn't recall the last time this cabinet has been able to have a retreat. So, if you don't want to say in front of your boss, like, it was just okay, you can just send me, if you could turn around, Dr. Korb. But I just kind of, I want like a summary from every person, like a 2-sentence, like, this was beneficial. Was it or was it not? Was that something, important for the cabinet at Johnson County Community College? That is my very generic question, and I was gonna just accept a thumbs up, but, you know, with Dr. Corbett kind of makes it uncomfortable, so I don't want to put anybody on the spot in front of their boss, but if anyone wanted to speak up, I would really love to hear a little more about that.
Yeah, you'll notice she said 2 sentences, so.
And I don't need everybody, but, you know, if anybody had anything in particular they wanted to say about that. I think from this body's point of view, thinking about the professional development of the next group of people under our president is really important to how this institution operates. And I appreciate that you knew that that was important and conducted that retreat.
Anybody in the gallery? We'll start there. I see several cabinet members in the gallery.
He's trying
I see
to.
some thumbs up. I
There's
saw
some people
Chris, you back
averting
there
eye
nodding your
contact.
head, so, Gerb.
I
Yes.
can say that it was great. I've already asked her for permission to share what I learned with IDC, which is the Instructional Deans Council. So we can have everybody be a perfect leader here at JCCC.
Any comments from those at the dais?
I thought it was good. It was the first one in at least 4 years. So it was really terrific to get off-site and just kind of spend the time intentionally to do that work.
Then I would say it's the first, so I got here in 2016. It's the first time since the fall of 2016 that we actually looked at, and I have several new colleagues around that table, we've actually looked at our personal leadership and interpersonal styles and actually talked about how our personalities mesh. So.
And everyone's still here tonight, so I guess.
Right?
Okay, I mean, you know, no one ran for the hills, so. The reason I wanted to bring that up is I think it's really critical from where we are to ensure that our president, the current one sitting here, is acutely aware of it, but our next president really be able to answer how they grow leaders and how they lead leaders. And I think it's really imperative that we get the feedback from you all on what is helpful and what is not helpful for your own growth and development so that you can be the kind of effective leaders this campus needs. So thank you for letting me put everybody on the spot, and thank you for mentioning that in your report.
Yeah, I think that was a really good question, and I always find it interesting, and maybe this is just me, but the way I perceive my own leadership skills and the way I lead versus the way others around me perceive the way I lead aren't always aligned. And so I think it's always helpful to be in an informal environment like that where you can speak frankly about what kinds of things you feel are important in leadership and how others perceive the way in which you do it. So it sounds like it was a good exercise for everybody. So kudos to you, Dr. Korb, for convening that. Trustee Rattan, I believe, was next.
I know you said that you want to extend the strategic plan for 2 more years and let the president come in and then make it theirs. But I would like to see kind of a scorecard for our strategic plan, much in the way that you laid out goal 1 and here's what kind of the details were and the rocks underneath the big rock. I'd love to do that at a retreat in the future or somewhere where we go through each one and we talk about where did we win and where do we still have some opportunities. And I think that's a good exercise as the new president comes in, that you've done a scorecard on it. Not only that we've kept that strategic plan and we're still working on it, but we also have a scorecard and they are aware where the opportunities are. So if we could put that on some future agenda, I'd like to see that.
That's a great idea. Trustee Croft, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to comment, I really appreciate Dr. Korb doing that. I don't remember a cabinet retreat in my time here. It's not an indictment on anybody. I could be corrected. Since 2013, I don't remember it or it didn't cross my brain, and I don't always pay attention. So I will say in my time as chair in 2022 and 23, this administration and the cabinet, it simply wouldn't let me fail. So there was time, trust, and even when we disagreed, whoever you are, particularly Kelsey Nazar or Chris Gray or Mickey McLeod, like they wouldn't let me fail. I had the knowledge I needed, and they had the support and the the ability to come talk to me. So I appreciate Dr. McLeod, Dr. Bowen, and Dr. Sopcich always allowing that we had an open channel to the cabinet members. And so as long as, and my leadership style is somewhat haphazard, and I know it's probably in contravention to how the chair and the vice chair operate, but I love my style. And it is to say that learning what I needed to do and willing to be learning to learn what I needed to do meshed well with this cabinet. I mean, I think this cabinet carried us through COVID, and I think it carried us through several difficult situations in the last 5 or 6 years. So I just wanted to comment on that, and I appreciate the time and effort that's gone into leading and developing the cabinet these past 8 months, and I sure appreciate it. So.
Any other comments?
Thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. McLeod, for that, and thank you for your report. This seems like a good time for me to bring up the fact that several people now have mentioned that we're going to have a new president. And makes me sad because I happen to think that Dr. Korb is an incredible resource for this institution, but I respect that we pulled her out of retirement and that she may wish to go back there. So I thought I'd take just a minute to let everyone know that my vice chair, Laura, and I have been busily at work on facilitating the search for our new president, along with Christina McGee, who's sort of keeping all of us in order as well, and Caitlin, who's kind of driving the train. And I wanted to just let everybody know that we are well underway. We are in the final stages of preparing to really kind of kick off our formulation of what it is that we're going to be looking for in our next president. Our search firm will be on campus September 16th, 17th, and 18th. I think we'll be having some communication come out about that because we're going to be scheduling some forums and things of that nature to occur most likely on the 17th. The search committee has been selected, and I think we have a great committee, including both internal stakeholders and external stakeholders from the community. And I just wanted to let everybody know that the train's on the tracks, it's running, and we'll be updating folks as the need arises, but we hadn't really mentioned anything about it, so I thought it was a good time to kind of get everybody on our page. So with that, your report is concluded for the third time maybe. Okay, that takes us on the agenda to new business. I'm not aware of any new business unless someone tells me otherwise. Old business is next. I'm also not aware of any old business unless someone advises me otherwise. And that brings us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an opportunity for us to take up in a single motion several items of a fairly routine nature. And I will start by asking if there is anything in the consent agenda that anyone on the board would like to remove for individual discussion. Trustee Smith-Everett.
Madam Chair, I never remember, so you're going to have to help me. I don't want to remove it, but I want to discuss something in the consent agenda.
We'll have a discussion period after we make our motion.
Okay, so I can just leave it. I don't have to pull it to discuss it, right?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Anything that anyone wants to pull for individual consideration? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which you see in your board packet, and I never have the pages ready at my fingertips here.
30 through 37.
30 through 37. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Motion made by Trustee Cross. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Smith-Everett. Do we have any discussion? Trustee Smith-Everett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention in the human resource addendum, for the second month in a row, we had a listing of a faculty member that has passed away. And I just wanted to publicly offer my condolences to the family of Miss Spence. And I don't recall if I said it last month as well, but that is a tremendous thing and a tremendous loss for us and for their families. And I just wanted to offer this board's condolences for the family.
Thank you for that. We always count on you to remind us of those things, and obviously, we all send out our warm wishes and prayers to the family. Always a loss. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The consent agenda is approved. Next on the agenda is executive session, and for perhaps the first time in the nearly 2 years that I've been back on the board, we have no executive session. I know everybody's disappointed about missing the dinner that we always get, the lovely dinner, but I think we'll sacrifice that. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion by trustee Smith Everett, a second by trustee Cross. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0, and we stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.
God, it's not midnight.